Yeah. Let me drop exclusive game from my exclusive mind. You be out here chasing fame, I stay steady on my grind. Zero diamonds, zero.
Thank you for tapping into the Exclusive Minds podcast. Today we're going to be having an exclusive conversation with exclusive content from Exclusive Minds. I'm your host, Rook, and
Joe.
let's get right into it.
Episode 37. I think it's 37.
I'm pretty sure it's 37.
If it's not, well, it's 37 now.
You weren't playing no games. You're like, you ready? Boom. And he started going right at the intro. I was like, that was good. That was good.
Asked, right?
Yeah.
I was saying that, hey,
He did ask for consent.
Another 2-week lull, even though we had a kind of an intermittent.
Well, I was going to say, we had one.
An interim episode in between.
Yeah, we had one scheduled. I saw that because I saw you upload, and I was like, did this guy do a solo one or something? Because
I told you.
I know, I completely forgot. That's what I was saying. So then I read the title, and I was like, oh my God, I completely forgot about that. We should start doing that probably more often.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out really well. I mean, that was the first time I scheduled it, too. I was like, well, I wonder how this works.
Yeah.
And all the services basically have the same thing. Like, you can't, like, pick the hour, but you can basically just, you say it's going to...
That would probably be good. Like, I'm trying to think, because the only reason that worked out so well is because we had a guest. So, like, we could have, like, a guest dedicated one, and then have one where we just do like a regular scheduled one. Because if we were to try to do, like, two, like, rambling ones back to back, I could see us just coming to like a halt at like the 10-15 minute mark on the second one.
The cool thing too is, I guess, is if you're a subscriber to the podcast, you get to listen a day before everybody else.
Oh, there you go.
So I mean, that's obviously
everyone
a
likes being in the limited club, right? Yeah. So I guess that's like a cool.
Yeah.
Little,
so I mean, it does
deal.
that on Apple. I don't think it did it on YouTube and some of the other ones, but I think most people probably listen to it on Apple anyway.
Yeah, I think Apple's like the number one thing. Speaking of which, thank you for reminding me, because I know we talk like about where we uploaded our stuff for, and at this point we're basically on like every platform, and we always go back to like Rumble being like, oh, like I completely forgot about that one. But now that Andrew Tate guy, he got banned off of everything except for Rumble, so he's like the forerunning guy for Rumble, and like. He did a live stream on there and got like 130 or 140,000 live viewers on Rumble. So maybe he's like starting a new wave on Rumble now. So we might have some trickling effect going on there.
That's Rumble's claim to fame, is they don't, whatever you want to say, you can say. It's a free speech platform. So if you want to be an idiot, right, it's not for them to make the decision on whether it's right or wrong. It's for everybody who's listening to make the decision if it's right or wrong.
Right. So this is the thing, because regardless of, like, I know we talked about him before on here, and like regardless if you agree or disagree, I mean, the same thing happened with the former president. It's like, it's just crazy that like within like a weekend, like these private companies could just get on like a conference call, I would imagine, and then just say, hey, if you've been seeing this guy's activity, like let's just pull the plug. And then within like a weekend, what was it, Twitch, Twitter, everything, they all just basically just said, you're off
they'll
the
tell
platform.
you it's a coincidence,
right? But I'm just saying
we didn't get together on this, right?
But it's like within like a weekend, this guy had, he doesn't even have a TikTok account, and he got banned off of TikTok. So like, it's like,
so what was the reason they banned? I knew he got banned, but I don't remember what did they say he did?
Right. It was like most of the stuff with the human trafficking stuff. Like they were saying, because he got this girl. This is his side of the story. His side of the story was a girl came over to their house. He has a brother named Tristan. Tristan was apparently hooking up with the girl. There's security footage of like her going out, getting pizza, coming back. So she had like free access of going in and out of the house. This is what he said. This is his side.
Yep.
And apparently she had a boyfriend. The boyfriend found out where she was at. So then she threw up like, oh, they're like abusing me and holding my against the will. And and they came out and were like, here's the security footage of this happening. So this is their side of the story. And then the other side of the story would be like, these two brothers moved to Romania because there was like a clip saying that the cops are more lenient over there for, I guess, against like if you were to like try to like, if someone were to call you out, the same situation that happened with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard when she called him out for X and then she turned out to be in the wrong.
Yeah.
It over there, it's like it wouldn't even get to that point where they're in court, because you could just say to the cops like, this didn't happen. So I guess it's like more like what do you say, like. You could pay yourself out of situations. I guess
you're innocent until proven guilty. Versus the way it is here now, or it's you're guilty until you prove you're innocent.
So that was kind of like the whole thing. And I don't know. I'm probably
not that I'm saying I don't know.
Right.
The story,
I'm just saying. That's just kind of like the gist of it that I understood. I know there's probably some people who are more invested in it, and if I'm misspeaking, like feel free to reach out. But I think that was kind of like the gist of it.
Okay, so I mean, fine,
and that's why I got canceled because
I'm not a Tate fan, right? So, but
yeah,
so I have no love affair for the guy, but this just makes no sense to me. So
I don't think anyone should be deplatformed unless you're like out here screaming like a neo-Nazi or whatever they call him. Like,
yeah, I mean
that's like different.
I'll have to look into it, but I mean, if what happened is what you described, then he's basically guilty. Unless he can prove his own innocence, right? I mean, how can you kick him off for allegations?
I guess that's basically the side of the story that I heard. Like I said, I could be missing some stuff because there's obviously people who are more invested.
Yeah. I get it.
But that was kind of what I was told, so I'm not too sure. But I know he, like I said, went back on Rumble, and then over the weekend there was that KSI fight card, and we'll talk about that later on, but basically KSI called him out to a fight, Tate. So it's kind of interesting because he was originally supposed to fight like Jake or Logan, but they're like, well, how's he going to even promote the fight now? He doesn't have any social media. So this guy KSI was maybe like throwing that to be like the good guy in the situation, or I don't know.
He's just trying to cash in.
That's what I'm saying.
Come on, it's a money grab.
Absolutely. Did you want to?
Yeah.
Have any topics?
Just following up on our past podcasts, one of the things is you asked me to watch Joe Badass. I know it is Joey Badass. So you asked me to listen to 1999, which I did.
Did you?
I did. So I was flying back from, where was I flying back from? Kentucky, of all places, and I'm listening to the album. So I probably should have done my homework before we got on the podcast, but I listened to it. I mean, so did that come out before Kanye, or was Kanye before him? What's the timing on that? Was it really 1999?
No, that's just the title. Let me see exactly when that came out. What did you think about the overall opinion before I look this up?
So a couple things. One is, obviously in the world we're living in today, right? I listened to these albums and I cringe.
2012.
Okay, so it was after Kanye.
Yeah.
All right, because I mean, I don't know if maybe you put it in my head, but you said, "Oh yeah, he's influenced by Kanye," and you can hear it, right? And I was thinking, well, wait a second, is this guy before Kanye or is he after Kanye?
Yeah.
Right? It was okay. I mean, I don't sit there and go, oh my God, this guy's on the Mount Rushmore of rap. I just don't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, it was only one album, it was only one listen, so fairness, but. I'm like, okay.
So like out of everything that you listened to in 2012, I think he was 17 years old. So he was saying all of that stuff by being like a young kid. So he's like kind of ahead of his time when it comes to like the current topics that he was talking to, at least at the time. Like he was talking about like some serious stuff. He made a group with Capital Steez, which was his friend. And he talks a lot about like their relationship because unfortunately Capital Steez, he ended up like committing suicide. So a lot of his stuff comes from like a dark place, and you could kind of see that in the music, and it relates a lot with like, I guess you could say like a younger crowd, I guess, at the time. But I don't know, I think his whole thing was, it's just like, it's a whole different thing of music, because you go to listen to like, let's say Kanye, and then you listen to that, you could see the similarities, but they're also two different things. Like one's more like, I guess like aggressive or like kind of like standing up for something, or you could see there's like some symbolism behind it. And then Kanye's also has that, but it's more in like a artistic or creative or like more of like a song pop kind of feel, if that makes sense. So that's, I think it's two different styles. But I don't know. I like Joey Badass a lot. I mean, he was like the first person I seen in concert, him and Logic. So like they have like a special place, and like that's why I put him on.
And then the other funny thing is like I'm on an airplane, right? So I'm obviously sitting there, and it's not a big airplane, but I'm on the airplane. I have my headphones on, and as I'm listening to this, I'm like, please, 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 headphones don't run out of battery, and then switch over to the speaker because I'm like, I mean, honestly, it's the world we live in today, where I'm like, holy shit, I'm just cringing, like thinking about the, if I and as a matter of fact, I think I ended up listening to a little bit of it in the car, and I was just like, how can you listen to this with the windows down and shit?
The one song on there I really like, I'm looking at it now. Track number 4, Survival Tactics. That was like the first song that I got into of Joey Badass's. That's what Capital Steez. It's like, I don't know. That's all-time GOAT songs. Absolute GOAT songs.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of that nuance is lost on me because I don't have any of the background or I'm not.
You're just listening, just like
thing, right? I'm listening to the music.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably like the Kanye one's pretty. There's a lot of depth musically, just from building and stuff like that. Where this has a little bit of that, but it was.
You just definitely need more like context. I feel like in order to understand that.
I probably will never have it because it's just
And that's good conversation you brought up because now I noticed that a lot of artists they're trying to, or not trying to, but which is a good thing. They're what do you call it? They're kind of expanding their horizon, if that makes sense. Like recently with Drake, he just put out like kind of more of like a house music-y type album where it's like we're used to like his stuff being either like rap or like hip hop, you know what I mean? Like we're kind of, that's his like lane or like singing. So it's like cool to see now that artists, because Joey Badass just released one and it's just like they're trying to develop more than just like that surface level like rap. You see like Kanye did it, but not necessarily within music, but with music and then transitioning to clothing and all that stuff. So it's cool to see like artists being more adaptive than just being kind of surface level just rappers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it brings up a question. I mean, like for music, is it more important for you the music or the lyrics and the story that's being told? Like, where's the balance? Because I mean, I sort of think about it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I think that the music, right, the song, the melody, whatever it is, probably is more important to me than the actual lyrics and the story they're weaving. I'm sure there's exceptions, but when I kind of think about it, I'm like, I listen to a lot of music, right? And I'm like, I don't, now that I'm really thinking about it, I don't know if I know what the hell the songs are. You know what the songs are about when it's happening, but when I think back, I'm like, it's got a cool beat, but
no, that's a great point. I mean, the perfect saying for that would be like, there's a perfect time and place for everything. Like if you're listening to, I don't know.
Well, I think they've always said that people associate songs with times events in life, right?
Yeah,
which makes sense. But
exactly.
I mean, yeah, as I'm listening to rap, I'm like, well, maybe your generation, it's the lyrics are actually more important and meaningful than the underlying music. Where my generation, it was kind of the music and the vibe versus the actual lyrics. But I could be wrong. I mean,
no, I think you're pretty close with that because I was just listening to what was it the other day? Nirvana and like all those like older, I guess you could say, like stuff
older.
Like rock.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But like I don't know, it was like their bigger stuff. Like what's their biggest song? Feeling Teen Spirit or something,
Teen
whatever.
Probably, yeah.
But it was just like something we were just driving, listening to, and it was just like just something like it was a nice day out, windows down, all that type of stuff. But then like you listen to the lyrics, he's like. Like it's just kind of more like dark and like if you were to actually listen to the lyrics, it's kind of dark. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess.
But you could listen to it with the windows rolled down.
Exactly, windows rolled down, and you could completely vibe out. So I guess it just depends how invested you are into the people, because obviously, like I'm not like the biggest Nirvana fan, but I listen to their stuff and. Just kind of like appreciate it.
I got to see see them at the Armory down in Drexel University. It was like,
oh really?
It's like 1,500 people, 2,000 people, maybe most. I don't even know if it held that many.
Yeah, I mean cool. Drexel's super close, so that's cool. That
it was before they really, really, really broke.
Yeah. I mean when I guess when did they like when everything happened with like
I want to say early 90s. Honestly, my timelines are all morphed, but I think it was the early 90s.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. I mean, I enjoy their stuff
because the hair bands were all the 80s, right? And then the 90s was when, grunge came. So it was probably the early 90s.
Yeah. I mean, and we were also listening to obviously like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I got to give a shout out to like that whole group because I always find it cool that they're able to like still to this day they're still making music, but they've been together since the 80s as well. So it's like that same exact.
Yeah, I should make you listen to an album and then tell you.
Yeah.
So what's
you have to tell me like
so
what it is.
you ought to listen to Tool's Lateralus. I think that's their latest album, which is freaking fabulous. I actually have the record over there. So the record.
Tools.
I actually bought the record.
Tools who?
Lateralus.
Okay, I will. But no, as I was saying, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they were staying together. Like I always find it cool when groups could stay together and still like able, like everyone's like good and making music and everything like that. So I don't know. I find a appreciation for
bands
that.
that sort of survive the age of time, or well, I shouldn't say they're rare and few and far between, but it is kind of unusual that four dudes can kind of keep it together without having issues. And I'm sure all these bands have had issues.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's funny because some of those, but they're 80 years old and they're still freaking touring. So.
You see like
the Rolling Stones and shit.
Did you see the documentary about the Motley Crue, The Dirt? That was pretty crazy.
I haven't, but I mean, I know a lot of the stories.
Dude, like the guy, he like overdosed and then like
Nikki Sixx has died like 6 times.
Exactly,
officially dead 6 times.
So
or some shit.
It's crazy. It's crazy that some of these they're able to come back and tell some.
Now
stories.
He's living in like Montana or Wyoming, and he's kind of a normal dude who gets on a podcast and
thank God
radio
right?
shows and but I mean you can only imagine the life those guys lived.
Yeah,
every time you think you had it good, not even close, right?
Exactly.
Those dudes had some fun.
I mean, yeah, a lot of the even rappers are trying to be like rock stars because that's who they like look up to, or like they see that lifestyle. They're like, we want to do that. You don't see like rock stars trying to be rappers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's that. Real quick, I want to pivot. Did you happen to catch any of the fights yesterday with the YouTuber boxing at all?
No. I mean, I saw that KSI won. He fought 2 guys like back to back.
Yes, sir.
And I saw he won both of them. One of them was like some other amateur dude, and then the other guy was like a Mexican. Was he like a legit?
He's a boxer, but he's a bum. He was fighting him the whole time. He was complaining the whole time. It was like complete utter bad luck to like amateur boxing because that's what he was, an amateur boxer.
All right, so it was
So, but he was complaining the whole time because KSI actually has boxing experience in the past, like the past 3 years he's been in it. So good amount of experience. He hit him like twice right off the gate in the chest or in the ribs. And then I think that really like shook up the Mexican fighter, and he was like complaining the entire time. Like you would have to go back and just watch it. It's like literally.
So I mean, what was it on?
rounds.
I mean, was it just a pay-per-view thing on
DAZN.
YouTube or
DAZN? I think it's called DAZN.
Oh, okay.
It's like a newer thing.
Yeah, that's Saudi Arabian money or Middle East money. It is.
What?
I mean, so I think
is
that's
that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Because they signed Canelo, and they've got a bunch of big contracts, but I'm pretty sure it's Middle Eastern money.
Damn. Well,
backing it.
Yeah, I mean the event was flawless. I mean, I never see because that was another thing I noticed. Like when the fighters first came in, they didn't go through like how I guess like in like Rocky or any traditional boxing, they would come through the crowd and then they're like touching the crowd. There's like security. They had like a nice like rollout of like a stage. They walked down a stage and it was pretty cool, but like it was just like you could tell they had like a big budget for this thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because like there was none of the I guess traditional stuff, or maybe they're just trying to come up with a new lane of.
So I'm assuming
stuff.
you didn't pay for it, but what do they want to charge?
They're not
for
trying to $12, I think.
God, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's $12. So KSI fought twice, like Joe said. Though, what the stipulation with that was, he fought like a producer the first fight. And then both fights were 3 rounds each, and then he had a 3-hour break in between. So he was the opener and the closer. So opened up the fighting, then a couple guys fought in between. I saw Deji and FuziTube fought. Deji won. These are just YouTube guys. And then...
Well, here's the crazy thing. Like, I really have to question how much money they could have made because, I mean, look, your generation doesn't pay pay-per-view, right? There's so many avenues to get pirated streams. Like,
yeah,
who the hell actually would pay $12 to watch that?
So,
I mean, I'm sure obviously they're still doing it. But I mean, I'm like, who pays to watch this shit?
I don't know what the budget was, but I know they sold out. It's in London. It's called the O2 Arena.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
okay. They sold that out. It was like 20,000 people. So I'd imagine they made a lot of their money there from sponsors and then a bunch of people watching it. Like you said, I don't know exactly how many people paid for the pay-per-view, but if you remember, The promoter for the KSI and Logan 2 fight, I forget his name. He's a big promoter in the space. He does like Canelo stuff. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I think he's involved with Anthony Joshua. I can't. Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Him too.
Yeah. I can't think of his name.
Hearns. Yes, that's him. He was talking, and he said that the KSI and Logan fight, the second one, sold 2 million pay-per-views. That's him coming from his mouth, and that made it the fifth.
Well, that was the first. Well, the second one. Okay, but yeah, I mean,
that was the fifth most pay-per-viewed buys in history, with behind like the Mayweather and McGregor and everything. You know, so these guys obviously are bringing attention. So I would imagine they made their money back. And plus, if they're, he said he was, JJ said he was fighting in January. So that's only what's today? August, then August, September. Months. Yeah, about 5 months cool down. Yeah. So if they're able to get these lower like grace periods, I think they could really have an impact, because as we talked about many times on the show, like boxing is not superior when it comes to the timing that UFC has. The timing with UFC is you could have a banger fight every month. Like every month you're going to have like a championship or some sort of...
Not the same person, but just because they have a deeper pool.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they could have like, all right, we're going to have Adesanya fight this month. Next month we're going to have...
Yes, they've done a much better job of promoting some of the non-heavyweight classes and creating this deep pool of people to...
Now, if these YouTube guys could do that same thing, because there's obviously a bunch of these YouTubers now trying to get into the boxing. If they could do that and say, all right, we're going to fight every 4 months, then that's huge. That's a W, massive W.
For me, it's already kind of gotten long in the tooth because the quality of the product sucks.
I think they went out there and gave their heart out, man. It looked good. I was thoroughly enjoyed.
You just described a shit-ass fight where he punched him in the ribs twice, and the rest of the fight was bitching and whining. I mean, if
this is to say anything, the last fight was the worst fight by far. So that was absolutely the worst one. But the ones with JJ and Fusi, or Deji and Fusi and Temper, these were like Temper was like the favorite going in, because this guy has like a lot of jiu-jitsu experience. So everyone thought he was going to win. And then this guy, Slim, who took the fight on like a 3-week notice, ended up winning in like the second round, like knocked out Temper for a couple seconds. So it was like, there's a couple of upsets, and it's cool to see that that they could train and get into it. So I was thoroughly impressed until the last fight when he was complaining the whole time. Then I was like, all right, dude, like, what the hell is this? You're giving a bad name to boxing in general.
Generally speaking, I haven't seen a ton of these, but just generally, even the undercards, the quality of the fighting has just not really been all that great. You
know what though?
And that'll eventually wear down. And
it'll get better over time, I think, like you said. But you know who KSI did call out? Tommy. And the whole thing with Tommy.
Oh God, please.
So listen, the whole thing with Tommy was he couldn't travel to the United States.
Yeah.
JJ KSI, he's from London. Like that's his home turf. So they could make that happen, and who knows, that might be his opponent come January.
All right. Well, at the end of the day, I would have liked to have seen that Paul and Fury fight, but
yeah. Well, I think
one of those.
Too much going on.
Yeah, but
I think they're building up something dope, because the ultimate storyline is for KSI and then Jake Paul to fight. That's the ultimate storyline that everyone wants to see. KSI is playing it smart. He's building up his credibility with couple of smaller guys and gonna take it on. So
they're both doing that, I guess you could say. So.
Yeah, exactly right. But I know you went traveling this past week and a half or just week?
Last week I was in Lexington, Kentucky for 3 days.
I thought you went to New York. Or was that the week before?
Did I go to New York? Oh yeah, I was on Long Island and then Connecticut. I had a golf outing in Connecticut and just some work in Long Island. Long Island sucks. So if you're from New York, Long Island, it's just awful.
Did you get any iced teas?
Traffic-wise, it's just no.
No Long Island iced teas?
No.
That's what they call them over there. There's apparently no iced tea in it, by the way. If you didn't know that.
Someone was drinking those the other day, and there was this big argument about whether or not it was actually invented in Long Island, New York, or in New England, Boston, or some shit.
New England iced tea.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, but it was a thing, and I'm like, I just kind of laughed because I could care less. But I'm not a hard liquor guy anyway, so or even with mixed drinks. So
yeah, that's Taylor's friend. She orders those, and then we were looking it up because I was like, is there iced tea in that? Like, what brand of iced tea are they using? It's so what it is. It's a mixture of
splash
cocktails
just to give it the color, right?
No, a splash of Coca-Cola. That's what it is. A splash of
Right,
cola.
I knew it
There's
was
not
something
even
just to kinda-
there's not even iced tea in it.
It's
I'm like, this is such a
17
ripoff,
hard
man.
liquors, and then they put a splash of something just to kind
Yeah.
of make it brown or something, and call it a nice tea.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So you said you were out. I guess this kind of parlays to the next question because you would know you've been in this space a lot longer than I have. What's your thoughts generally about the return to office situation? I know we're coming off of like the COVID stuff; it's kind of going away, but like now that I'm being more into the business side of things, like I feel like my friend, he just applied to Macy's. And I think he said that Macy's sold like most of their corporate buildings. The only one left maybe was in New York. I don't know if that's true or false.
That's probably true.
Probably true, right?
Yeah.
But he was saying like, oh yeah, I'm applying to Macy's and my cousin works there. And all I would have to do is I would just have to go there for 3 times. It's mostly remote 3 times a year or 3 times a month. Sorry. I would just return to office and do some stuff there in office. But what's your like, do you see that being a stable thing? Is that kind of how things are going? And then part 2 to that question is, I guess that's just like kind of like the overall gist of it.
I think that generally what I've seen is a lot of places have moved to a hybrid model.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that corporately speaking, that's a transitional phase where they want everybody back in the office. Whether they actually get there is a whole nother thing. But yeah, so I generally see, it's like a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're in the office and 2 days you're home, or vice versa, right? You're in the office 2 days a week, but almost everywhere I've seen it's either no office or it's a hybrid.
Now, does that mean that there's better business being taken place in person, or is it kind of the same?
There's a couple things going on. I mean, clearly the 2 years of COVID have sort of proven or vetted out that, companies can still be successful without having people in an office.
Yeah.
There are certain industries where I think it's necessary for people to be back in the office, like, I don't know. It's just going to be difficult. So, I mean, from a productivity perspective, I think like call centers and there's some jobs that, you're going to have to come back. And I will tell you, though, that I think that the massive loss, which is probably going to take a long time to really kind of see where this ends up, is, with the world as it is today with social media and the internet, right? The whole idea of socializing has really taken a hit. And I think after this last 2 years, it's just killed itself. I mean, there's just no socialization anymore.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
There isn't. I mean, there isn't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, when I was coming up, right, everybody was in an office. You worked and I knew all of my coworkers intimately, right?
Mm-hmm.
You went out and drank with them. You went out and party. You just had this massive socialization, and everything was kind of built around social
or whatever.
Socialization. It wasn't so much, let's go home and play video games, right? It was, let's go to the bar and drink. Let's go to the bar and watch a baseball game, whatever it might have been. But you were wrapped around the axle with what was kind of going on with everybody. If someone was having a bad day, you knew about it. You knew why, right? I mean, good or bad, right? I mean, now it's all gone, right? I mean, if you're having a bad day, you've got 17 other coworkers who don't know and could give two shits, right? So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, there's pros and cons. It's nice to be able to take a 10-minute break and get something done on the side at home. But, I don't know, man. I think your productivity suffers. I really do. But
so if I were to answer that question now, someone obviously a lot less experienced than you are with that, I would say the connections that I've made with my coworkers have been nothing short than like the ones that you would see at like if you were to think about like your like going to school, like in grade school or high school, you would have friends at school but necessarily wouldn't hang out with those friends outside of school, if that makes sense. So like they're just like acquaintances,
they're
whatever.
Passing acquaintances.
Yeah, exactly. So like you have
know
like
them, but you don't really know them.
Exactly, right. And that's where you said the deeper connection of like if you were to have a bad day, like they wouldn't know. You know what I mean? Just because it's all digitalized. Now, from a productivity standpoint, I feel like if you were in sales, which, I think a big thing would be like body language and stuff that you couldn't see necessarily like over like a Zoom or something like that. But if you were to do like a call center, like you said, or something that's kind of at your own pace, and you had to be tracked, obviously all these companies now are tracking you.
Yeah.
So if you're maintaining a quota, but also doing something that doesn't necessarily involve team activity or team building, I think you could do that at home. You know what I mean?
I mean, you could,
but like you said, it might not be the same results. I get that.
I mean, we our company has a pool of what we call customer service reps or inside salespeople, right? And it used to be a bullpen of whatever it was, 8 to 10 people that were in desks pretty much lined up, and
in like a team.
They were doing the dialing for dollars thing. But what you would see, if you just spent some time there, right, there was a lot of cross interaction with best practices and hey, how would you do this, or can you help me do this, or something like that, right? That if you're at your home, right, the fundamental job you could do, but a lot of that, side stuff, that side interaction, learning through osmosis, that all that's gone, right? You don't have that, and I think that's the real challenge. It's tough. I mean, obviously I've been working from home for a gazillion years, right? As far as I can think back. And, for me, I never turn it off, right? So, sure, I might sneak out to the mall at, Wednesday at 1 o'clock because I got to go pick up, the latest and greatest, whatever. But at the same time, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, I am on my computer banging away emails and stuff like that, as, while I'm watching TV or something like that. So you also have to have, I mean, believe it or not, right? You have to have the ability to be able to work remotely. Not everybody can do it. A lot of people need structure, guidance, and they need communication to say, you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong. And if you don't have that, some people just break down and they can't handle it, right? You have to have this ability to continue to function and be productive. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, honestly, I think that there is going to be a large portion of companies that are going this hybrid model. The other problem is that they can't hire people, right? I was just talking to these guys that I went to visit in Lexington, Kentucky, are a call center. So they basically have about 100, right out of college or 1 year or less of experience, basically sitting at a desk, and they're basically cold calling out, trying to drum up business, right? It's not an easy job, but that they are trying to pull people back into the office because of what I just described, right? Yeah. They need to be monitored. They need to, have some guidance. They're green, right? They don't have the resources to kind of carry a conversation by themselves. So they need that stuff right on hand. But they're trying to hire people, and they
can't.
They either can't, or people don't want to come back. They've actually lost people because they didn't want to come back to the office. And I was hearing this story about these people your age who are like, oh, I had anxiety about going back into the office. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, what are you talking about? Right. I mean, I don't think that way. So, I mean, it's difficult for me, but I'm like, this isn't like, it's fucking COVID, man. It's like a common cold, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. Well, wait, anxiety. Oh, wait. Are you talking about anxiety about getting COVID?
I don't know if that was it or just...
I think it might be anxiety about coming back. I can see that being a thing.
Again, because of the fact that no one's been socialized as they've grown up. Like, I look at Noah and I go, holy shit, man, this kid is just... I love him to death, obviously, but, the way I was socialized growing up and the way he's been socialized are night and frickin' day, right?
That's just the new generation now.
He's going to be 35 before I think he's going to be able to really acclimate to the real world, because it's going to take an extra 10 years for him to kind of have the same social experiences that I had going through his age thing, because he's in a frickin' room on a computer all day.
Well, that's also the new way of doing it, though.
I understand,
because and that's the same. Because I was the tail end of that.
I tell myself that every day, right? Yeah. That is my excuse, and whether it plays out or not, I don't know. But I tell everybody, I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, in 10 years, that's the way the world's going to work, right?
Exactly. You're going to put on a headset, and you're going to...
It's all VR.
You're going to be...
as a parent,
you don't want to be the guy...
That's my excuse in life.
You don't want to be the guy who's scared of the internet, man. You don't want to be the parent who's like, oh, this www.com's not going to be anything.
Here's the reality, man. man. We're going to be armchair quarterback in this one the whole way. But in 10 years, we'll see if we were right or wrong.
It is a gamble. But I think it's just more favorable towards the younger people.
There's clearly a different way of looking at life, and I honestly, I think some of your generation is super soft with some of the shit that I've heard, and I know I'm, you call out the one or two bad things, right? But I'm like,
not
holy
too far
Christ.
from the truth. There is a lot of softer people, but there's also, I think, a lot of people who understand that, and it's just luck of the draw, right? If you get 10 people from this, 10 people from that, whatever generation, you're gonna obviously have that. Now, is there more people who are soft, quote unquote, softer? Sure, that's. I don't know. You know what I mean? That comes down to the socialization thing. They might just not have the socialization skills that, like you said, you had growing up where, getting trading cards or comic books or whatever the thing was, you had to actually go out and do that activity versus just stay in the room and,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I look at myself and I'm like, yeah, shit, I was delivering newspapers at 10 or 11 years old, and I never stopped working. I mean, I don't know. I mean, most kids your age don't do that.
No, I mean, what?
I mean, the opportunities aren't there, right?
The opportunities aren't there.
Legally, you can't do it anymore, right? I mean, you can't start until you're 16 or whatever legally, right? So, I mean, it's like there's a bunch of shit, but
16, you can only work, 4 hours a day?
I don't know what the rules are, but I know, there was no rules back then, right?
Yeah.
10 years old, you're
definitely easier to make money, though,
and stuff like that. But now it's like shit. You can't even.
I mean, all you need now is this. So it's definitely easier to make money, but it's less opportunity physically in person to go do such a thing.
It's a weird world we're living in.
It definitely is. So let's go to your favorite topic.
Politics.
I'm getting a couple G's. G's from Uncle Sam, or what? Like, what's going on here?
So, I mean, honestly, I hate talking politics, right? Because I never want to be, everybody knows my slant, right? And my slant is, from a mainstream media perspective, is the slant you can't be on. But anyway, so, I want to talk about this because, I mean, at the end of the day, right? I mean, that whole horseshit thing that he did is directly targeting your generation, right? To try and influence and, it's vote peddling. But I mean...
So real quick, before I'll let you continue, I just had to say this. I remember a couple months ago, you asked me, is anyone from your, college or, anything taking the whole... student tuition thing serious? And my answer to you, because I was thinking about it because I knew this would come up again, I was like, no, I don't even know what you're talking about. I didn't even think that was a thing.
Right.
Fast forward to, was it the 24th? I don't know.
Yeah, it was just a couple days
ago.
a
couple days ago. And my buddy calls me and he's like, hey, do you have any federal loans or whatever? And
Pell
I'm like,
grants and
yeah.
stuff,
And I'm like, I think I do. Maybe a couple. Obviously you don't want to. We do, like most kids are doing private loans, like Sally Mae,
which
from their bank, which is not getting anything.
Right.
So I'm like, I think I have maybe, I don't know, I don't want to put all my business out there, but maybe $5,000, $6,000, not too much. And he was just like, all right, well, you're good. You're gonna get 10,000. I'm like,
well,
what? Or not 10,000, but up to 10,000.
Actually, I think it's up to 20 if it's Pell grants.
I don't know, but I don't have that much.
So I mean, I have to go back and look, but I think like Natalie, I think she's gotten $5,000 a year in Pell grants, so she's literally going to get a $20,000. It's not like you're going to get $20,000 written to you. You're not. You're just not going to have to pay that back. Which I think, if I told Natalie, guess what, you're getting $20,000, she'd be like, huh? And
yeah, exactly. So you're not. You're like you said, you're not getting they're not writing you a check, right?
No,
because that's the same thing that happened with the stimulus checks.
Well, so all debts must be paid, right? So
I mean, everyone just when they got the stimulus checks, they went out, bought a new iPhone, new MacBook.
There is a check being written.
But you're not, it's up, like I said, we use my number, 6,000, right? I'm not getting $4,000 to go just free-handedly spend. It's just that 6,000's
right
tarnished. But anyway, back to what you were saying. I just thought that was it. So what's going on with this whole thing? Are they just cutting it, or where's this money coming from? Do you have any information?
So
the good taxpayers?
Okay, so at the end of the day, and this is a lesson for everybody, all debts must be paid. Right?
No free lunch?
So either you as the loanee, right, pay off the debt through hard work and, paying it back. Or you say, F you, I'm not paying you back, then that person who lent you the money is basically taking the $10,000 hit or whatever it is, and he is paying it, right? Okay. So we all, as tax, as the tax base in the U.S., are paying for this. Right. Okay. Don't be mistaken. Right. So you may be lucky and sit there and go, holy shit, I'm getting 10 grand. Well, guess what? Your neighbor next to you is paying for that. Right. You're paying for it.
Neighbor.
Everybody's paying for it. Right. And that's the big issue. Right. Because it's like, well, why the hell am I paying $500 million for some kids who took out loans to get an education? Right. It's really going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I mean, it is absolutely pandering to your generation to try and, basically influence you to kind of vote Democrat. That's the bottom line, right? And there's no other reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? So real quick, I'm sure everyone at this point has heard about it, but
I mean, seriously, like
up to $120,000, you have to pay $10,000, and then up to, if you make over. So I forget, it's $250.
No. So together? If you are married, it's under $250,000 a year, or if you're single, it's under $125,000. So unless you're a Harvard graduate who's dropping into a really, really super nice day one job, right? Everybody's going to get that.
If you're making over $125,000, you don't need it. If you're a solo person, right? You don't necessarily. I mean, that's up in the air, but I don't think you're going to need it. I think, like, if you paid it off, like, you have a good job. Like, I was talking to my friend who works with me, and he was just saying his brother's what does he do? Computer science or something in the technology, and he's making well over that. And he already paid off his student loans, but he was just saying, like, yeah, this guy doesn't make, with his spouse, he doesn't make over $250, but they're pretty damn close. So if he needed to pay off his loan, he wouldn't have a problem doing that, obviously. But, like, I don't know. I think there's just, like, a big backlash because it's like, all right, where taxes are going to be raised and stuff.
Well, I mean, the big backlash is you made the commitment, right?
Right, sure.
So why the hell should I pay? Well, I mean, honestly, I'm a taxpayer, right? So this is costing me, and they say it's going to cost on average.
Well, that's the thing. What's the dollar amount?
It was like each and every taxpayer in the U.S., this is going to cost them like I saw the initial number was like $2,500 in additional taxes to basically cover this program. So I have to cough up somewhere along the line. I'm going to get taxed on something to the tune of $2,500 to cover this program. So I'm like, why in the hell am I paying for you to have a $10,000 reduction? You knew going in. I mean, we all do, right? We all know. And as either as parents, you put in the extra effort to kind of help your kids through, or you work a job or whatever it is. I mean, but everybody knows. And so why the hell why are we giving you $10,000 in free? It's free, right? So
that's the thing, right? I mean, it's also, like, I don't have that much debt. So for my situation, that whatever amount coming off the top is a big amount. Let's say it's a smaller amount, right? So $10,000, that's a big portion of the debt that I have. Now, for a guy or a girl who's going to, like, law school or med school who has $160,000, $200,000, $10,000 is $10,000 at bottom line, but it's just like...
Well, so that goes to the point where the whole university and college degree thing is a scam, right? So here's the other thing, right? So if you look at the group that they kind of promote as needing this, it's the people who have kind of gone to college and failed out, or have decided not to complete, or get a freaking liberal arts degree where they're a social counselor making 20 grand on a $80,000 in debt, right? So the reality is, why are we not looking at the cause and effect and sit there and go, well, okay, unless it's really a career, and we've had this conversation, right? Unless it's a career where you really, 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 truly need the college education, like an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, right? Where you also know at the end of it, you're going to make some serious money to be able to afford the college, right? All these people that are going for these just generic liberal arts degrees, and then they get out and they're scrambling to figure out how the hell they're going to, make ends meet. We have to reevaluate that, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I guess the analogy that I would use for that is, pretend you're a nurse and someone is throwing bodies, injured people into a river, right? And you're just fixing other people in the river every time. You're like, where the hell? Like, rather than trying to get more people to help the people in the river, let's solve this at the point as where the hell they're getting injured from. So to that's saying, that sounds like a great plan in theory, but until you go to these corporations that when you're applying to them and on the bottom it says bachelor degree required,
I agree.
master's degree
I'm not
required.
arguing with you.
That's the problem. So we have to, rather than, complain. Like, I agree with you 1,000%. I think you could use $50,000, go start up a business and get double, triple, quadruple the amount of experience that you would ever get from a school. Learn how to use QuickBooks for one. Learn how to use Microsoft Excel phenomenally. Like, all of these different things.
Yeah, so
that's perfect, right?
I mean, you've obviously only been doing it for a month or two, but I can almost assure you, I mean, I don't even know what you're doing, right? But I mean, I can almost assure you, just from my own experience, that what you're going into did not require you to go to school for
Absolutely
4 years.
not.
And you would be better off if you had started 4 years ago in an intern program where you were basically making money, but you were also being, they were doing the training of you in whatever it is that you were going to do for 4 years.
I
right?
agree.
At the end of those 4 years, you would have been way better off without a college degree, but having worked with experience.
So when you apply, like all the jobs that you work for, this is the same thing. When you go to a job, they don't just throw you to the sharks. You have to learn their things. They tell you how to go about things. Sometimes that training for me, I started, what is it? June, right? So it's been, it's just training, right? That's the point that we're at. So if, like you said, if I, instead of going to college for 4 years, I could have started training 4 years ago, I would have already be mid-level salesperson or you know what I mean? So that's the argument. But I think just saying that only doctors or lawyers or whoever needs to go to college, that's a fair argument, but it all starts with the corporations themselves saying, all right, we're not going to discriminate against if you have this piece of paper. If you have this experience and you could qualify for this, or if you even make them take like a series of tests or a series of, well, I don't know about tests. I fucking hate tests. You might not just be a good test taker. If you have a series of activities you have to complete, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you should get the job. So I think that's the bottom line for that, but that comes from a much deeper rooted problem of going to these corporations and putting your foot down.
Well, so I mean, I think that the pedal to the metal on that is starting to change. I mean, a lot of these corporations are actually removing that now only because they can't really hire people.
Right.
So they're a little bit more open to it. I mean, I'll tell you, when I obviously in my career, because I don't have a college degree, right? So,
well, you have a lot of experience.
Yeah. And I can count on one hand the number of times I was actually turned down for a position simply because I didn't have a degree, right? I mean, it happened. It only happened a couple of times.
Was that like for like a management role or something like that? I could only see that. Being
I don't
like
even
a
remember. It's
issue.
been a while. I mean, obviously, it's probably been 15, 20 years since it's really been an issue. But back then, even then, I had a lot of experience, and they just basically said, "Oh, you don't have a degree, and we can't even interview." Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, like, seriously, like, are you out of your mind? But that was the way it was back then. So, but I think that's changed.
Yeah, I could see that changing. I know my buddy Mel, who was on the podcast before, he works for UPS, but in order to get a management position to where he's at UPS and he's been there, you have to have a college degree of I think it's like an associate's degree. So you have to be there for in college for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, there's just different things, but he's like, I'm more than qualified to do that. I mean, I've been at UPS for, I don't even know, 5 years, 10 years or whatever it was. Or no, probably 5, closer to 5.
Yep.
But I mean, it just goes to show that, I mean, for certain things, you do have to unfortunately have that. But like you said, maybe if those rules are starting to lightening up a little bit more, then they won't have that problem. I also think if you put remote on the job application, you're going to not have a problem finding people, because everyone nowadays, that's like the new thing. Everyone wants to work from remote. Like, you go on LinkedIn, you could see that a position for a remote job will have over 200 applicants just because it's remote.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
and an office job is less.
Office job is significantly less. I mean, I don't know if it's just because it says remote, but there's some companies that also put the base range of salary, so it's easier to see how much you're making. I mean, it's just a number of things that more people or more corporations are starting to do to make their position look more desirable or more realistic for people to try to apply for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that the remote working thing's here to stay in some form of
for
fashion,
sure.
right? I mean, it's it's pros and cons, and I don't know, but I mean, the loan forgiveness thing just it drives me batshit crazy.
Yeah, I wonder. I would like to see how that plays out, and how long is that going to play out for? Is that till the rest of time? The rest of our time?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know, because it's like, well, we're not going to give anybody who paid off their loans any sort of past kickbacks, and
they can't,
and like it can't go on forever. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, all I've heard is it's going to cost anywhere between $250 and $500 billion, over the course of whatever it is, 10 years or something like that. It's just it's
wild,
craziness. Man. And apparently it's not even legally. He doesn't have the legal capability to waive debt. He's supposed to go through Congress. Now, whether or not they actually enforce that, because the Republicans aren't in charge, but it's like, it's the executive branch. The executive branch doesn't have legislative authority over finances and stuff like that.
So when do we know when this is supposed to go into effect?
I don't. I mean, I think I guess there's going to be an application on the Department of Education site, and you have to basically fill it out and just show that you owe federal or Pell Grants, and then I guess you just get it waived magically with the unicorn wand.
So I think it's also in, 2 days or 3 days, August 31st. I think that's the last day for the 0% interest as well. Isn't there like a?
They're extending that.
Oh, are they extending? Okay, so that's what I was gonna say. Like, that was
one of the other things,
right?
So any federal loans
is 0%.
Will continue to be 0% through the end of this year.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's nuts.
I mean, that one. So that's one of the things that I guess a lot of the lawmakers have said is, let's not magically wave this wand and forgive loans. Why don't we
just put
address this issue? Yeah, and either lower the interest rates. Maybe not to 0, but I mean, I think Natalie's is like 7 or 8%.
That's about what mine is.
And that
7% is a lot. I mean, not a lot, but it's like, it's a good interest rate where we're at. But I'm saying, like, it adds up though at the end.
Shit,
the bottom line. You know what I'm saying? It adds up. Like,
because I mean, pretty much what I've been doing with her is I'm paying the interest.
Okay.
So
that's a good deal.
Whenever I've been paying the interest since day one, but when she gets out, she'll have the full principal. But it'll be whatever the principal was when she went in. So but still,
that's
it's
a good deal, extremely good.
7 or 8%, and every year I'm like, holy Christ!
Yeah, man.
I mean, when she's gonna have to get a job that pays literally $125,000 to be able to afford a car, an apartment, and pay the student loan.
What burns me up alive? And how long have we been going for?
Right about 50 minutes.
Okay, so this is what burns me up is if you look at think about when you bought this house, right?
Mm-hmm.
The average salary then versus the average salary now has only increased maybe, I don't know, let's call it $10,000, maybe, right?
I don't know about that.
Look it up. It's the mean salary.
All right, maybe.
Salary, right?
I'm thinking in myself, but yeah, okay.
Okay. Now, think about how much the market of a house has cost since whenever you bought it to come now. So you're maybe making a couple $1,000s more then, but your houses that we're going to have to buy eventually one day has doubled in price. Like, it doesn't really necessarily make sense. Like, we're getting like the shaft end of the stick. Essentially, bottom line, buddy.
You
don't think?
Everybody gets shafted, right? I mean,
dude,
back in my day, I was getting the shaft too. Come on,
bro. How are we supposed
Suck
to
it
like
up,
how?
Buttercup.
No chance.
Suck it up and
I think this is
a
a David W right here, bro. This is
so what are we supposed to do? Give you a free house now? I mean, is that what you want, or a subsidized house? We should give you.
No. I think the salary should increase, or they should just.
They have. I mean, we'll have to look at the numbers.
Yes,
I mean,
we'll have to do some number crunching.
I'm just thinking in my head, like when I bought this house, the house has probably doubled in price.
Exactly.
Okay, but I mean,
have you doubled your salary since then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe you're just the exception.
Well, maybe not doubled. No, but I mean,
right. But I'm saying,
but my salary has certainly hasn't doubled.
Has it kept up with the whatever you have to pay the mortgage or whatever, you know what I mean? Obviously it's gonna things with the time.
So I mean, I'm trying to think when I bought this house. Yeah, it's probably doubled.
Let me see. Hold on. Well, we could do it off air, and we could come back next week. This will be a good point to kind of revisit with everything, because I think that does require a little bit more knowledge, and I want to double check to make sure that I was right with how much increase since then. But I just know that in order to get like a house, whatever it is, it's just so much more money now. Just because of how the housing market's been, but it's just such a big difference for how much you're supposed to be making. Like, I don't even know what the mean salary nowadays is for a person, but
I don't even know if I could afford a new house these days.
Exactly. I mean, so that's saying something. So how much?
It's like a starter home is like $500,000.
Exactly.
I'm like, huh? What?
Exactly. So that's the point that I'm trying to make.
That's the world we live in, though. When you buy your first house, you're basically house. They call it house poor, right? You're literally. Every dime is going to pay for your mortgage, and over time that delta gets better, right? And then you get more disposable income, and that's the way it's supposed to work, though. I mean,
so that's like when you like buy like a wallet, and you just like spend all your money on the wallet and don't have no cash to put in the wallet. That's like the same thing.
Well, that's true. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to go out and buy that Louis Vuitton wallet that costs $1,200 to put $4 in it, right? I don't
have my wallet, but I do need.
Is that your Gucci, the big G wallet?
No, I don't have a wallet.
That isn't strapped with $100 bills.
Yeah, right. No, I need to get a new wallet. I got the card one. I hate that, bro. I can't put no money in it. It's not cards.
I haven't carried cash in. Since COVID, right? I mean, I never carry cash.
I carry cash on occasion.
I never,
once in a while.
ever. I mean, I travel, right? And it used to be, you had to tip everybody and stuff like that. Now everything's electronic. Right? You get in a cab, you get in an Uber. Every once in a while, like, if I'm parking a car and the valet, and I'm like, shit, I don't have any freaking cash.
Yeah, I was in Philly the other day and I had to tip the valet.
And I'm like, I don't ever carry cash. And if I do, it's probably 20, and I'm not giving, I'm not tipping $20, but cheap bastard. I know. So, did you see California's banning gas cars?
Yeah, and I want to buy a Tesla, bro. I think that's what I'm going to do. Maybe next car. I want to get actually a hybrid. You've been saying good stuff about hybrids. Maybe I'll get a hybrid. I've been really wanting a Tesla, but I think hybrid's the most makes the most sense for this area.
Well, we had this conversation. Cars are crazy right now. I mean, shit. I was looking at used Teslas, and used Teslas are $50-something thousand. Do
you know which kind? The S?
Well, whatever the cheap one is, the Model 3.
The 3?
Yeah.
You could buy a brand new one for under 50.
Bullshit. Once you actually,
you want to get like the self-driving and shit like that?
No, okay. I mean, why the hell would you buy a Tesla if you can't get the self-driving shit?
Electric, bro.
I heard they're charging like $15,000 for that.
Yeah, close to that.
Or like $200 a month is a subscription or some shit. I'm like,
so here's the thing.
I can drive my own freaking ass.
You know how like annoying it is, because each car already has it. They just have to. So you could buy a Tesla without it. Then
it's there. Then you just have to flip the switch.
You buy it, and then like you could. So think about like when you jailbroke an iPhone. If you ever done that, you could just maybe finesse the system somehow. Like I don't know. Maybe you could do that with a Tesla. But yeah, it's like $12,000, $15,000, whatever you said.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a lot of money, dude. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I had to talk about today. I mean, what else do we have? Is there any? No, never mind. No. We should watch the UFC fight with Adesanya and the other dude. I forget his name.
I guess there was some action. That what's his name? Usman lost, right?
Yeah, he got. That was a crazy series of events. I didn't watch that live, so I can't really say exactly.
And that's the thing about UFC, man. Like any day, anybody can get their shit kicked in. Like anybody,
literally
right?
kicked in. That's exactly what happened.
The funny thing is, he was whooping that dude's ass
the whole fight.
And then he's the other guy's like prancing around like a peacock because he got freaking shit ass lucky.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man.
I just watched. It's actually funny you bring that up. I watched ONE FC the other day. That's like the first time.
Oh, that's the old school is the best.
ONE FC is
freaking Gracie, man. That shit was at the time that was amazing because no one had ever seen anything like that.
So that I just watched it 2 days ago. Whenever it was live, it's like this is like the secondary to the UFC. It was a current one, but they're allowed to use like steroids in it. Did you know that?
Back then?
No, this is new. This is this has just happened this weekend. Like my friend, he's big in the UFC. ONE FC's the separate company from the UFC. So UFC's a business, ONE FC's another business.
Are they owned by the same people, or is it
separate thing? But
so it's like some Russian or
So they're allowed to use steroids, and these guys are like jacked. The ones that I watch are like 250 pounds or 260 pounds. And I was talking to my boy about it, and he's like, "Yeah, the only main difference is they're allowed to use steroids, and they're allowed to knee when the person's on the ground, which could be crazy, like
To the head or?
Yes, to the head. Yeah.
Well, I mean, holy shit.
That's like some intense stuff, and it was just cool to watch because I watched the fight.
Because you can knee in the UFC, you just can't do
not
it to
when
the
they
head.
go. Yeah, not when they go down. Well, you could do it in the head if they're up, because that's what happened to Jorge Masvidal and
yeah, he just
Ben Askren.
ran and
kneed him at flying knee.
Yeah.
Now in the ONE FC, you're allowed to do it when they fall on the ground. So if you're falling on the ground, they could just boom right in the head.
Yeah, kneeings. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of.
Sketch.
So I mean, why don't we just go back to Roman gladiator times and just have
them fight to the death?
Honestly, let's just. I mean, we're getting to that point, right? Let's just take the criminals and let's throw them into a coliseum and just have them kill each other. I mean, it's honest to God, that's the world we're living in. People want to see that, man.
That's
we're
like
there.
You ever see the movie Hostel?
We are there.
The Hostel is the same thing. Like there was like a bunch of rich people, and then these like
they just
vacationers.
Yeah, they find people off the street and just make them fight to the death.
Or
I hate to say it, this society is just kind of getting there, man.
Oh my God, no, yeah.
Jeez.
All right, well, I think that's all I had to talk about.
Awesome. So we are back. It's almost like every week, even though it's been 2 weeks.
We pre-recorded, so we're good. We're on schedule, 3 weeks strong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So episode 37 in the bag, and we will catch you on the next one. I think this was a pretty good episode.
This was a banger episode. We had a lot going on.
What the hell? It's my wife. It was Siri, right? All my lights are controlled by Siri, so she can mess around with me. Like she'll be like,
Or it's the ghost. We have to get Tracy to come up here and investigate.
It's Ida. She's playing games.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Good stuff, guys.
Peace out, everyone. Later.